Wake that ass up.
Early in the morning.
The Breakfast Club.
Morning, everybody. It's DJ MV, Angela Yee, Charlamagne the God. We are the Breakfast Club. We got a special guest in the building.
He finally came to sit in this hot seat.
That's right, from my borough queen, Stephen A. Smith.
What's going on, y'all? How y'all doing?
Good morning.
up?
Now, I haven't seen First Take this week. Did you talk about how good my Dallas Cowboys looked on this past Sunday? Did you talk about how amazing they look? How they look like the front runners in the NFC?
Even when you gave me Donkey of the Day awards and all of this other stuff, I defended you and defended you and defended you. I said, Joe, I'm a big boy. I could take it. If he feel I deserve it, ain't no big deal. But then you're going to bring up the Cowboys.
I'm just saying.
I'm trying to come to you. Listen, y'all ain't win since 1995.
No, let's not talk about the past. Let's talk about Sunday.
That's what y'all always do.
That always happens at the beginning of the season. This is our year.
That's
We're
right.
going to the Super Bowl.
3-13. 3-13. Season ends January 3rd at 7 o'clock. 7:05.
year.
You know we're going to win the Super Bowl next year, right?
Next year we got to. Next year we got to.
Did we look good on Sunday, though?
Y'all look good. Dallas is a monster. Their defense is no joke. Dak deserves his money, though. You better take care of him.
He will.
But I will say this. New Orleans, L.A., Aaron Rodgers back. Don't sleep. Chicago's there. And I think Philadelphia going to win the NFC East.
Really?
Deshaun Jackson, Alshon Jeffrey, Zach Ertz, Carson Wentz is better than Dak Prescott, even though I got love for Dak.
Well, guess what I think?
What?
Dallas Cowboys going to win the Super Bowl.
Every year.
I know.
Andy, who do you think is going to win? The Giants?
The Giants.
You know him. He don't mean that. He don't mean that. He just being emotional. I understand that. I understand. You know it's bad when Daniel Jones shows up in the first game. I mean, it was only 2 minutes left, but he showed up in game one.
Yeah.
That tells you all you need to know. I mean, the owner was just weeks removed from saying, I hope we don't see him all year.
Yeah.
Because that means Eli is playing lights out. And the brother showed up before the first game expired.
Yeah.
Bad news for y'all.
Why are we talking about football anyway? Let's
Okay, no. Before you get to
Okay.
that, though, I do want to say MB's also retired as a Knicks fan.
I don't blame him.
Yeah, I'm done. I can't do it anymore.
I don't blame him.
I can't do it anymore.
So what are your thoughts on?
Well, I'm not going to go that far about myself because I am what I am, but I will say this. I don't blame any Knicks fan for feeling that way. And it's not just because of the perpetual misery. It's because when you lose out to KD and Kyrie to Brooklyn.
Shout out to our Brooklyn Nets.
Brooklyn.
Our Brooklyn Nets.
Now it's over. The Knick brand is officially not what it used to be.
Trash.
So if you had a choice to go to a Nets game or a Knicks game, which one are you going
Oh,
to?
hell yes, the Nets.
Okay.
I got to say this to you. It's not that the Knicks ain't going to be better, but I got to say this. People forget this. KD, when he comes back, that means you're a legitimate contender.
Correct.
But without KD, without Kyrie, they were still a playoff team. And then with Kyrie there, people forget Kyrie is showstopper. Kyrie is box office. So it's worth the price of admission to walk through the turnstiles and watch him
Can
dance.
him and KD play together, though? Because I feel
We're
like
about to find out.
Yeah, I feel like both of them have very low emotional IQs. And this New York, like if you got thin skin and you can't handle
Kyrie
people
from
talking
here,
about you, critiquing you,
Kyrie from
it's
here,
going to be rough.
I would say this to you. Kyrie can handle it because
Okay.
he's going to dance on you. KD, this is my argument in defense of KD, and Lord knows we've had our back and forth. We still have our back and forth. But here's the deal about KD. Every time I see KD have an attitude, every time he in the news for the wrong reasons, every time people getting on him, he drops 40. But if that's your definition of a bad day, go ahead and have it.
Yeah.
I mean, go ahead.
Right.
He's the kind of cat where his game is going to be his game. His game will not disappoint you. And the reason why I think they can coexist, I think KD, who, by the way, I'm going to see Friday, KD is one of those guys, he's one of the most unselfish superstars you'll ever see.
Where you going to see him Friday? He coming on the show?
No, yeah, he want me on the boardroom.
Oh,
Okay.
Nice.
Okay.
Now we got to talk Carmelo. Now
Yeah.
we seen your interview with Melo.
Yeah.
Now you don't think they doing my guy Melo?
Oh,
dirty?
no, without
and
question.
He should have
without question, they're doing it wrong.
a good tour on his last season.
No.
Why
Stop,
not?
no,
Now, come on.
stop the tour.
Melo's-
Stop the tour. Stop the tour. No.
Why?
Melo belongs in the league. There ain't
does.
250 players, let alone 450 plus players better than Carmelo Anthony.
Okay.
Now, you're making the argument that the ball stops moving when he's on the court, which is legitimate. But I think what people are missing is what has happened to the NBA game. You got a bunch of these white dudes that are analytics dudes. And so they're numbers crunchers. And everything is according to PER and all of this other stuff, all of these statistical categories. Well, what has happened is they're looking at that and they're using that to frame rosters. Because if you go to an owner and an owner particularly doesn't know basketball, what's their position? I know numbers.
Right.
Well, if you're an analytics dude, you coming to them with numbers. So they're going to let you flow. This is why Daryl Morey let go of Carmelo with 10 games into the season, because the analytics dudes judge the game in 10-game increments. After 10 games, they think it tells you something. So if they wanted Charlamagne or they wanted Angela, they wanted you, they say, okay, we want you gone. They ain't cutting you game 15. They're going to cut you at 10 or 20 or 30. It's like 10-game increments. So it wasn't an accident. So you got that working against Melo. And one coach said this to me. He said, Stephen A., this brother's a future Hall of Famer. But I don't think he works for my 9-man rotation. How am I supposed to look down at the end of the bench and see a Hall of Famer and think I'm not going to take heat for that?
Wow.
Why would I want that headache? I know he from roster from 9 to 15, he clearly could be on any team in the NBA. The problem is most of those dudes are marginal talents without his resume that you could justify and get away with it and have peace of mind. How you going to have Melo on the end of the bench?
True.
He said that's a headache we don't want. That's why he's not in the league.
So you
That's
think it's
what he
over?
said. I don't think it's over yet because I think there's still a couple of teams he could help. I don't know if Brooklyn is the right thing,
That'd
but
be awesome for us.
I personally believe that LeBron should find a way to get him to L.A.
Yeah.
I personally believe that. I think that Doc Rivers could use him. I think that LeBron in L.A. could use him with the Lakers. There's a few other teams that you could mention that he probably wouldn't want to be. I don't mind an end run with the Knicks. All right, you want to honor him as the Knicks? Fine. You want to honor him as the Denver Nuggets? Fine. But that damn national tour throughout the NBA, no, that should be reserved for champions.
Yeah, I don't want him to end his career with the Knicks. He don't deserve that.
All right.
He's been through enough.
But where do you retire his jersey, though? Do you retire in New York? Do you retire in Denver? Where
Both.
do you retire?
I say more so New York. Denver, only reason I say no to Denver, even though those were some would argue his best years,
Right.
the problem is he wanted out. He pushed himself out of that door.
Gotcha.
I didn't want to be here.
Gotcha.
I want to get to the East Coast. They're going to hold that against him. There is absolutely nothing to hold against him in New York because he wanted to be here when nobody else wanted to even come.
True.
Now, have any athletes ever tried to hold your commentary against you? Have they ever
All the
tried to
time.
press you?
They do it every day.
Like, I'm talking about like press you, like
Oh, yeah.
physically.
Yeah, it's a couple. But that didn't work out well for him.
Leave it for Queens. Don't get it twisted. Leave it for Queens.
No, wait, didn't you get smacked on the butt once?
That was by Morris for the Washington Wizards. He
you
just
mean?
slapped me after they had won a game, and I thought nothing of it until a couple of days later he said publicly, "Well, I just did that because that's all I could do." And I was like, "Well, wait a minute. I thought you was playing around. That's what you were doing?" I'm like, "That's like that. Like you were serious? Like you really?" I said, "Okay," and I went on national TV. I said, "Let that happen again."
Don't touch me.
That don't do that.
That's crazy.
Don't do that.
know what, people-
Sometimes it ain't about winning or losing. Sometimes it's what you're willing to do to make your point.
Right.
People
I'm
do
not
block
gonna
you
get
a lot,
punked.
though.
That
People,
it ain't going down like that.
people block you, though. I saw Antonio Brown just blocked you.
Well, he should be blocking everybody. He's acting like a buffoon. And I'm not calling him a buffoon. I'm not calling him clownish because that's engaging in character assassination. I'm talking about how he has conducted himself over the last few weeks. I don't believe you do the kind of stuff that he did. And I wasn't following him or anything. I'm just, I just do what I do on TV or radio, and they post it on social media, and he didn't want it disseminated to his followers. And I don't blame him because I went in on him, and he deserved it.
Do you think the Patriots signing him sent the wrong message? Like they're rewarding bad behavior?
I don't think that's the Patriots' problem.
Okay.
I think that you're trying to win Super Bowls. You've already won 6 rings with Tom Brady and Bill Belichick in that era. You have the license to do what you want to do. He was guaranteed $30 million from Oakland. He's only guaranteed 9 from New England. 5 in incentives he could earn, and then they got an option of $20 million on the second year. They are in complete control of his destiny with them. And because that's the reality, I have no problems whatsoever with them taking a position. I mean, this is who we want. The brother's all world. He's one of the top 2 receivers in all of football. He's a future Hall of Famer, one of the greatest receivers we've ever seen. Can't take anything away from him. And I think with him, it's unfair. It's the equivalent of Durant with the Warriors. It's a foregone conclusion to me that the Patriots gonna win it all, barring injury.
Not
'Cause
Dallas Cowboys.
He's that great. Well, Dallas ain't.
Oh,
beat
my
him.
goodness.
I don't understand why everybody applauding Antonio. You found a way to lose $21 million. I don't think that should be applauded.
Exactly. I completely agree. For once, we agree. For once, we agree.
For once.
Now, Odell, what did you think about, this is a 2-question, what did you think about the Giants getting rid of Odell?
Yeah.
And last week, him wearing a watch on the field to play football?
Well, first of all, I didn't like the fact that they got rid of him because they tried to paint it like he was such a bad guy. He was a bit emotional, a bit temperamental at times, but that's all he did. The situation in France, he wasn't the one with the white powdered substance in front of him. He was eating pizza. That woman was doing whatever it was she was doing. That's his business. Having said all of that, he was all world and what have you, and I thought he was box office, and they had just signed him to $95 million. So you said you didn't sign him to trade him, but that's exactly what you ended up doing. Having said all of that, he's got to check himself to some degree from the standpoint that, look, you haven't won anything. You've been to the playoffs once. The one thing that he has proven is that you can lose with him and you can lose without him because they've been losing without him. All right, they already started off the season getting trolloped by the Cowboys, and they obviously lost with him the previous 4 or 5 years that he was with the Giants. So at some point in time, you got to look in the mirror and you got to recognize the fact that I got to focus on football. I thought the watch thing and all of that stuff, you ain't break any rules. It's no crime. But in the same breath, nobody else is doing that. You trying to be different. Why aren't you trying to win? You taking videos with you and Kaepernick throwing you the football. I got no problem with that. But damn it, you need to establish yourself with Baker Mayfield. You understand what I'm saying? I mean, what have you done? At some point in time, it's got to be about that. And I'm one of those guys that I want cats to get their money. I'm all for that. But in the same breath, I don't know about the rest of y'all. I think one of the problems is too many cats are getting paper. And I'm not talking salary. I'm talking endorsement deals, attention, and all of that stuff. You're getting it without winning. I want you to win. I want you to prioritize winning. Because guess what? Y'all do y'all thing every morning. You winning. That's why y'all matter. If y'all were losing, you wouldn't matter. Winning matters. It matters. I'm winning. It matters. When you ain't winning, but you being celebrated, I'm not down with that.
That's kind of this generation, though. They give out participation trophies.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you pointed that out in your book. Yeah, I know. And I think it's a problem, and I think it's something that has to change. You know, and that's one of the things that I try to focus on in everything that I do, just reminding people what the real world is. That ain't the real world. That's an aberration. The real world is what we talking about here. You know, we going to get into HBCU week and all of this other stuff. The bottom line is that you got to go out there and you have to produce. And if you don't produce, they will find someone else who does. But in the world of sports, unfortunately, we got too many cats that are being celebrated without winning.
Right.
And that's my issue. It's not that I don't want you to get your money. Not that I don't want you to get your paper and the attention and everything that comes with it, all the acclaim. I just want it to be because you win. Not because, oh, you flashy. Or if you really, really think about it, as electrifying as Odell Beckham Jr. is, and he is. If it wasn't for that one catch in the end zone against your Cowboys, we got to ask ourselves what kind of endorsements would he have gotten? And why would he have gotten them? You know about the catch. You know about his hair. You know about the commercial with Eli Manning during the Super Bowl. And you know that he showed up in a playoff game against the Green Bay Packers after being in South Beach the Monday before the game, chilling with the fellas on a boat. But when you went to Lambeau Field 6 days later, you were targeted 11 times. You caught 4 passes for 28 yards, and y'all lost the playoff game.
And let me ask you,
that's what we know.
Let's start from the beginning. A lot of people don't know. How did you get your start in this, and how did you get into your TV show? Because
sports broadcasting, really.
Right, the first time I met you, we were doing a morning show together.
That's right. Yeah.
It was me, Stephen A. Smith, and Miss Jones.
That's right.
How old are you, bro?
I'm pretty young. We're all pretty young. And I remember they offered you a check, and you was like, "No, I'll pass." And then all of a sudden, it just went from there. So how did you get your start into this industry?
Well, I went to Winston-Salem State, an HBCU, and I majored in
not Hampton, but I love that college.
You know what? You are right about that. And I'll say that's for different reasons for another day.
All right.
But Hampton is special. I will say this, just being there and majoring in mass communications. Look, man, I got left back in the 4th grade, and I had a 1st grade reading level. And from that point forward, remembering, it was 4th grade, man. I'll tell you right now, I'm 51 years old. This is over 40 years ago. And the kids in the neighborhood that was laughing at me and ridiculing me, I remember everybody. Everybody named Marshall, Lewis, Donald Miller, Willie Jones. I remember everybody. I was, and even though I could ball, I had focused my attention on nobody's ever gonna laugh at me again for my lack of intelligence. I was gonna make sure I was gonna elevate that. And so, me, focusing on journalism because a professor noticed my ability to write and told me, go there. And it just took off from there. School newspaper, local weekly paper, local daily paper, the Winston-Salem Journal. From there, internships there in the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. Started off my career at the New York Daily News. Then I went to the Philadelphia Inquirer, got promoted 9 times, made some paper. I was real popular covering Allen Iverson every single day for the first 10 years of his career. And that's why I always say I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for him. That's my little brother right there.
Shout out to AI.
Because that brother, I mean, it was wild covering him. Make no mistake about it. But there was never a dull moment. So the eye of the basketball world was on me. And I was able to materialize that or take that and from CNNSI when they had a sports entity to Fox Sports to the ESPN coming to me in October of 2003. And then after I got there, Mark Shapiro was the president at the time. Now he's the president of the Endeavor agency, but he was the president of ESPN at the time. He's running ESPN, rather. And he said to me, you got to have your own show. Everything you touch is ratings. He said, I need to give you your own show. And then that's when Quite Frankly came in and people saw me hosting a show. And I hosted like 720 shows. I'm sorry, it was pretty much about 700 and change. And, I did all that, actually 300 and change with over 700 interviews and stuff like that. I had everybody but Michael Jordan and Tiger. And MJ was on his way. So, I mean, it was great, and my career just took off from there. And that's what I've been doing.
When you cover AI, because this is a different era now. Now it would be all about the gossip and his personal life. What did you cover about him then?
Well, AI and me personally, I've always had my own personal code. Your personal life is your business, unless it ends up in the police blotters. If it ends up in the police blotters, or you put your personal business out there, let's say, for example, you're doing an interview, people recording you talking about that stuff, all right, then that's different. But outside of that, what goes on in the privacy of your home is your damn business. That's always been my mentality. Just don't let it get public. Because once it gets public, it's open season, okay? Because I'm not going to be left holding the bag like I don't know what the hell's going on. And so he always understood that. And a lot of times when we would butt heads, it was crazy, but we would butt heads, it was usually because I used to tell him this, your fault. I said, it ain't just because of what you do. You run around and tell a story. Because when it comes, your sport is my domain. No one's going to tell me what you doing on the court. If you shoot 2 for 20, that's what you did. You ain't going to tell me, nah, man, it was the coach. Hell no, I watched you jack up air balls. You ain't getting away with that. But if something's going on in your private life, that's your story to tell. But if you allow some of it to get out, and you don't talk about it, the worst thing you can do with me is be inaccessible. Because then you're giving me the license to speculate. You're giving me the license to go to different avenues to find out this information. And you did that to yourself because I wasn't looking for that story. And I'm not trying to report that story. I'm trying to focus on the game. But when you see stuff that affects the game, that's the kind of stuff that you got to point to.
Can you be friends with somebody you're reporting on?
Me personally, not really. That don't mean you enemies, but there's a healthy balance. Like, for example, I'm incredibly tight with Shaq and Kobe and cats like that, but more so now that they're retired. They're saying with AI, now that he's retired. D-Wade's my man, now that he's retired. But I always let them know, I'll never backstab you. You'll always see me coming. I'm like a Mack truck. You will see me. I'm coming right at you. I'm looking for you. And I'm going to call you. I'm going to try to reach out to you. I never forget one time, with Shaq's mom came up to me and she was furious with me. And I was like, what'd I do? She said, you're too soft on my son. You're not holding him accountable enough. I need you to be tougher on him. Stuff like that. Wow. So he got mad at me one time and I looked at him and said, right there. He was like, what? He said, what you pointed at my mother for? I said, ask her. She told me to write it. She told me you was being soft. The Sarge, God rest his soul, his stepdad. He's like, you being a little bit too soft on him. He's supposed to be dominating. These damn pretty boy turned around, jump shots. He said his stepdad used to be like, you drop, step, and you yam it down the neck. That's what you do. Stuff like that. When you cover in the league, you cultivate relationships. You do all of these different things. These are all the things that I learned covering journalism. A lot of people think they could be journalists, but it ain't as easy as it looks. There's a lot of work that goes into it, particularly when you're principled and you fair. I've known you for years. If I'm talking to one of y'all, getting to know y'all, I've known this brother for years. So there's a level of bias as a human being that I'm going to have. You're not going to come to me and talk to me about DJ and be like, oh, Stephen A. Go. No, I'm not doing that because I have access to him and I've known him and we got background, we got history with each other. So as you cultivate a relationship, there's a line of professionalism that you always have to make sure is there. But in the same breath, the human side of you has to come out and be like, all right, I know this person. I have access to this person. That's the one argument that Melo had against me one time. I wrote something about him with the Knicks, and he was pissed off. He was mad as hell at me. And he called me from Brazil, and I was like, what's the problem? It ain't wrong. He said, yeah, but there's more to this story. I said, well, damn it, you in Brazil. He said, when did that stop you? You got my number. And I said, damn. And I went on the air, and I apologized. Everybody, what you apologizing for? I said, because he's right. I have his number. When I call, he picks up the phone. There's no excuse why I went on SportsCenter and said this without getting his perspective first when I knew I had access to him. And there's stuff like that, that's what I'm talking about, in terms of covering the sport.
Who was your favorite co-host, Max Kellerman or Skip Bayless?
Well, that's a trick question. I would
Not
tell
really.
you. I would be honest with you. I would tell you Skip.
Okay.
I got love for Max. Max is a brilliant brother. Knows his history. Is an intellectual and whatever. But if you ask Max who's better to work with, me or Marcellus Wiley, he'd say Marcellus Wiley because that's his brother. Skip Bayless is my brother from another mother, man. We go back 25 years. We're incredibly tight. We still communicate with each other every single month. That's my man. And we skyrocketed to number one together. And no matter what I'm doing on First Take, it's because of Skip Bayless. Skip Bayless was on First Take. Skip Bayless was First Take. Skip Bayless is the one that went to the bosses and said, I need this guy. Please get this guy back. Please bring this guy on this show. I want to work across from him every day. The fact that he's done something like that, I can never forget I'm not that kind of dude. It's not about just where you are. It's about how you got there. There's people that's done things for you. There's people that's done things for you. And even though you're at a certain place, it's no denying what they did to get you here. And if it wasn't for them, a legitimate argument could be made, you might not have been here.
Right.
Max did not do that for me. Skip Bayless did that for me. And so it's not fair to Max to talk about just better or worse. But the bottom line is Skip and I have a special relationship that very, very few people would ever have with me.
Was it tough when he left?
Very much.
Right.
Very much so. Because, again, he established the show.
Gotcha.
It used to be Cold Pizza. And then they changed it into a debate format. And Skip Bayless held down that debate format for like 7-8 years. And so I come on board and I took it was no disrespectful to me to be recognized as his sidekick. I was his guy. I was his right-hand guy. But it was his show. And then ultimately it became us because I guess I am who I am. But that doesn't mean I forget who he is and what he brought to the table. And you got to remember that the whole debate format, sports television, all of this other stuff, Skip Bayless one of the inventors of that, man.
Yeah.
This brother was doing this in the 90s. This brother was doing it before there were debate shows. And so we got to remember that and show appreciation and respect for it from an historical.
Now you got to go. So
Let's make sure we talk about HBCU
Yes, right.
week.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So let's talk about HBCU week. That is the third annual HBCU. What's HBCU week?
Well, listen, it's basically an effort. First of all, you got to give a lot of props to Mayor Persicki in Delaware in his office, and he's got some of his folks here, and Mayor Carney and Governor Carney and others are showing up. I was surprised because they started it about 3 years ago, and it's basically to bring attention to HBCUs and people point out dwindling participation and things of that nature, accreditation issues and stuff like that. But the fact of the matter is, I come from an HBCU. Taraji B. Henson comes from an HBCU. Spike Lee comes from an HBCU. Felicia Rashad, so many different others.
DJ Envy.
DJ Envy, absolutely. And so you look at all the people that have come from HBCUs and what have you. There's a lot that HBCUs have to offer. And HBCU week is a dedication on behalf of Delaware State, the city of Wilmington, Delaware, the mayor, and others to bring attention to that and the fact that you want active participation, particularly by African Americans in terms of enrolling folks in college and things of that nature. They got an HBCU Fair Week as well. That Friday where First Take is going down and doing the show live from the 76ers Fieldhouse there. If you're a high school senior, you show up with your grades and you show up with your SAT or ACT score, you know what, you can be eligible to be enrolled in college on the spot. There's potential scholarships that's going to be offered. And they basically, honored me because of what I've been able and blessed to achieve in my career a few months ago. And then asked me to be the ambassador for HBCU week because they want to bring attention to HBCUs and, the importance of it all and how there's so much good that we can do in terms of generating participation, elevating level of attention and awareness about HBCUs and what it has to offer, particularly the African Americans, obviously. And that's something that I take pride in, because if it wasn't for Winston-Salem State University, again, I don't know if I would be in this position. They did a lot for me.
What do you think about players not going to HBCUs and going to these bigger universities where we start these players? You know, whether it's Zion, whether it's some of these major players that if they would have went to the HBCU, Howard, Hampton, and some of these other schools, it brings so much attention to these schools.
I'm sure you read the Jamel Hill article.
Oh, yes. Yeah. And so, listen, the bottom line is this. If I don't blame them, I understand it. I wish that wasn't the case. But I had the pleasure of interviewing Buck O'Neil. He was the last living guy from the Negro Leagues. And he talked about how if the sport of Major League Baseball had not been integrated, what it would have done for the Negro Leagues, because he said the Negro Leagues were more popular than some of these guys. He said it was filling Yankee Stadium. He said one game they filled Yankee Stadium. He said, but we live in a society, particularly in the United States of America, 66% of the population is white. We know that they got a lot of money, and as a result, because they pour those resources and those funds into things that are not black, the fact of the matter is you live in a society where people are going to follow the money. So you look at it from that perspective, along with the television deals, exorbitant amount of dollars in the billions, and you see these facilities that they have. You see the money that's being funneled through these programs, through these universities and what have you. You can't blame a young kid 17, 18 years of age, particularly if you're coming from an impoverished background, for following the money and not being conscientious enough to go to an HBCU. You understand that? But they ain't the only people that have to go to an HBCU. I wasn't one of those players. I wasn't good enough. I went to an HBCU. You went to an HBCU. A plethora of people that I mentioned and people that I haven't mentioned went to HBCUs. We making dollars. We're being successful. And as long as we hold that baton and we bring attention to that cause, you don't have to be a marquee athlete that goes to an HBCU to bring that level of attention. There's a whole bunch of people succeeding in corporate. Yeah, but that's the money for the few. Even today, think about it. You got NBA players, 450 plus NBA players, all right? How many of them are max players? How many of them are making the kind of dollars that we think they're making? It's not like that. And then this is me. This is where I go. I'm a little bit different than most in terms of what I'm willing to articulate. When I think about money, let's say, for example, somebody comes to me with $10 million. I'm thinking 4.5.
Right.
I'm thinking New York or California state taxes. Federal, I'm at over 38%. You bring in the state income tax. You got FICA, Social Security, disability, all of this other stuff. You are lucky. And then if you got an agent, all right, which most of us do in this industry, and they getting like 8 to 10%, what you're talking about is essentially walking away with 27 cents on the dollar. The other 73 is gone between taxes, agent fees and stuff like that. And that 27 cents to the dollar, you're using that to pay your bills and to live your life. So when they come to you with that, don't get fooled by it. Don't get fooled by that overall number.
That's right.
I always break it down. I think about, all right, what money comes to me? Don't talk to me about this dollar and I'm giving more than half of it to Uncle Sam and this and this. Nah, you got to think about that. Well, if I'm thinking like that at age 51 and you thinking like that in your 40s or whatever, etc., what do you think a kid is doing at age 19, 20, 21 years of age when they get their money? They ain't thinking like that.
Hell no, he's thinking 100 million. He think it's 100 million.
You think, and not only do you think it's 100 million, you walking around spending like it's 100 million, and we ain't even getting the family and friends and close ones. And so when I think about it, when I think about my participation, for example, in HBCU week, I think about stuff like this because these are the kind of things that I'm going to say. I'm going to say that. And when I think about you guys and a bunch of other people that I talk to, those are the kind of things that I listen for in terms of the kind of message that we're trying to disseminate. Because it's important that cats know this, and I know y'all know this, but it's important that they know this because a lot of times it's not about ignorance because they're just stupid or anything. No, nobody's stupid. It's about the fact that, you know what, they might not be paying attention to that because they've been given every reason not to pay attention to it.
Right.
Everybody's in their face telling them how great they are. They're telling them count this amount of money. They're not looking at the big picture. And colleges obviously help you look at the big picture. That's one of the things that's why it's called a higher education, an institution of higher learning.
2 more quick questions because I know you got to go.
Sure.
Do you take offense to people when they call you an Uncle Tom or a sellout?
I do. It doesn't, but I don't take offense to it in a way where I lose sleep over it. I mean, excuse my language, they can kiss my ass, okay? Because, I don't think I'm selling out. I think I'm looking out. What I'm trying to do is inform them of the world that awaits. I'm in corporate America. You know how many times I get in an argument even with players sometimes? I'm like, I'm in the newsroom. Don't talk to me about the media. They go. You don't know what they're plotting. You don't know. You know how many reporters smile in your face, and then behind your back they're giving the information to another reporter, so that reporter could go out there and do it. But they don't want smiling in your face, but they stabbing you in the back. You see me coming. I'm telling you, this is not what you're supposed to do. This is not what you're going to do because it's not going to work. And by the way, I'm not thinking for myself. I remember one time I was on the air last year. And I did it a couple of times, but specifically last year, I'm big about staying off the weed. Let me be very, very clear. I got family members and friends smoke some weed. I'm from Hollis, Queens, bro. I mean, come on now. We know better. I'm not talking about the average person. I'm talking about the athlete who's going to lose money because he's doing it. The NFL or the NBA says you cannot do that. Otherwise, we are going to take your money. So if it's going to take your money, why would you do it? He'll sell out. This dude, blah, blah, blah. Guess what I did? I brought on Snoop Dogg. Now, we all know he gives new meat. He gives new meat in the green rooms. Okay, we know this.
He smoked in here. You're not even supposed to do that.
I brought Snoop Dogg on. Snoop Dogg echoed the same thing that I said. And Snoop Dogg like, Stephen A., you ain't lying to them. You telling them right because I'm in a genre where I'm allowed to get away with that. They can't. Everybody like, man, Snoop real, man. Appreciate it. He said the same thing I said. But because it came from me, you got a problem. And so we got to understand that when we're in the position that we're in, and I'm talking amongst us, all of us, when we're in the position and we got this microphone, we got these airwaves available to us, haters gonna hate.
That's right.
It's a given. I understand it. It's no big deal. Let them hate. You know, because when you're trying to make a difference and you're trying to impact the masses, the lives of the many do outweigh the lives of the few. And sometimes the lives of the few, you're going to piss off. That's what comes with it.
Absolutely.
That's what comes with it.
Now,
You got your last question because your brother got to go.
Now, you catch hell for your hairline a lot.
Yeah, I do. I'm trying to hold on to it.
Have you ever thought about going bald or getting a cosmetic?
No. Listen, both. No. Both. Let me be real. I ain't gonna lie. Listen, a hair club for men is an option.
Really?
Yes, it is. But here's why the bald doesn't work for me. I got a schnoz for a nose. I got a noggin in the back. Now, see, if I had a head shaped like yours or a big square head,
right.
You know, like Billy King, the former president, you know, GM for the Brooklyn Nets, somebody like that, I could do the bald look. But the bald's not going to work for me. And so sometimes I sit up there and say, I might. Then I say no. Then I say, all right, hair club for men, especially after Deion. You see Deion Sanders. Deion Sanders. You see Deion Future. They got some surgery. Your own hair could grow back. That's right.
Tiger, Tory Lanez.
There we go. So I don't know about Tiger, and I don't know about LeBron. They need prayer. They need prayer too. But the point is, I mean, there are times where I'm like, damn, I might need to do that. And then there are other times I look at Kobe. And I'm like this. Oh, it's just before he went bald. I'm like, his hairline was there. Yeah. All right. So, you know, Steve, and you know, I mean, I don't get too many complaints. So
sounds like a good endorsement opportunity.
It might be. I don't get too many complaints. I'm good. I ain't trying to be a pretty boy. I'm just not trying to be Godzilla.
All right. And where can people go to find out about HBCU Week if they want more information?
Well, listen, I've got folks here, and, you know, obviously you're going to see me promoting it on my radio show and on First Take on ESPN, you know, every weekday. So I'll definitely be promoting that. I'll be talking about it all week long. And, you know, is there, I didn't know if there was a website or what have you.
It's HBCUweek.org.
Oh, that makes sense.
There we go.
HBCUweek.org.
See, that's the one thing I didn't know. I didn't know that.
And Facebook and Twitter and all that.
Yeah, salute to all the HBCUs. Salute to South Carolina State.
That's right.
Absolutely. Well, we appreciate you for joining us.
And by
too,
the
man.
way, stop acting like I'm hiding, Charlamagne. I mean, I didn't know y'all were this close to my job.
Right there.
And I don't mind coming on anytime you want to talk about sports. I mean, I don't mind being a donkey there. I can take it. All I'm saying is, though, don't act like you can't reach me.
Let's do it.
Don't act like you can't reach me.
You right there.
You can
I'm
come
right
anytime
there.
you want.
Y'all all got my number. Don't act like y'all can't reach me.
Let's do it.
All right.
Well, it's Stephen A. Smith. It's The Breakfast Club. Good morning.
My brother.